Yeah, I resonate with swinging from dev tools back into product because you just get that itch where you're like, I've helped enough other people. I want to
Yep.
make something
Yep.
myself.
Yep.
But recently, you've swung back the other direction, back into dev tooling with
Yep.
Tinybase.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you now, as you mentioned, you now live on a boat and completely do open source full time. So like, what made you think that you want to
Yeah.
make that transition of A, OSS full time, and B, traveling the world on a boat?
What makes you want to travel the world on a boat? Well, I don't know. Where do you want to start? It's awesome. That's why. Yeah. No. So after Portal, yeah. Actually, I didn't leave Meta straight after Portal. I did also go back to work in infrastructure for a while. And you're absolutely right. You come back from product land and you're like, guys, I got so many things we need to work on, because you've got that first-hand experience of having been like a customer of yourself, so to speak. So yeah, and I think that's ultimately where my real passions lie is making shovels and picks for people who are out looking for gold. It kind of helps you kind of get leverage and maximize the impact that you can have across all the people that will use your thing. So yeah, stayed at Meta for a couple of years after Portal, and then I just reached a good point in my life. Kids were leaving school. Boat was nearly ready, and we're like, let's just do it. So myself and my wife sold the house in Silicon Valley and jumped on a boat, and we've been sailing pretty much the last year or so. Came down the East Coast, started in Boston, came down East Coast through the Bahamas and the Caribbean and down to here, and it's been fantastic. But look, I think one thing you need to know about me is that like writing code is like part of my DNA. It's like baked into who I am almost. Started programming when I was a kid on a ZX 81 actually, which is a British computer that your European listeners may know about. Not so popular in the US, but like it was this little Z80 based computer that we all had in school in the early 80s, and I've been writing code ever since. Right? It's just part of who I am, and so even when I left my professional life, I knew like I just have to have this. It's pretty low down my Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of things I have to have. After water and food, I have to write code. So anyway, that's kind of the background, and so living on a boat, there's a lot to do to keep a boat going, it turns out, and obviously there's the actual sailing and traveling, and that takes up a lot of time. But there's also a lot of downtime, and what am I going to do? Just sit and watch Netflix? Or am I just going to sort of hack on stuff? And so that seemed pretty obvious. Had been dabbling with this little project that I'd started called Tinybase, and it sort of grew and seemed like something that I could sort of root my efforts around. And so put it out there, got it a website, made a little logo, started building some documentation, and there we are. So we'll obviously come on to talk a little bit about what Tinybase is, but in a way it's just a way of me keeping some fingers on the keyboard and actually building things, which I can't live without, to be honest.
Was the idea for like a local first sort of database, was that inspired by like living on a boat and like having poor connectivity, or is it something that you'd been thinking about previously to this?
I sort of have to grandfather in the origin story a little bit. That wasn't the original idea, but it turns out that is actually a nice resonant story. No, I started on this because I had originally been trying to build an app that would be a sort of surprise, like a dashboard that would let you see all your open source projects and see how they were growing and what was trending and which ones had too many pull requests and stuff. And I wanted to have basically at the time an Electron app that was going to be able to pull this data from GitHub and then display it. But the GitHub APIs, you don't want to be polling those every minute, so I wanted to have a way of storing sort of pretty structured tabular data locally on my device, and I didn't really want to go through all the malarkey of setting up like a full relational database, because it's not a lot of data, but enough to be able to hold in memory. So I figured, look, I looked at things like Redux and MobX, and there's a bunch of other kind of state management systems, but nothing kind of had like the right mix of relational structure, in memory, reactivity, which I wanted to, really important for me, that the UI was going to react immediately when data changed. And looked around for ways to do this that didn't involve polling GitHub every minute, and there didn't really seem to be anything. So I thought, well, how hard can it be to build an in-memory tabular data store? And quite hard, it turns out. I may have overcomplicated it, but that was the origin story. And then once I moved onto a boat, and I don't have continuous data connectivity, as you can imagine, got me thinking, like, what are the apps that work? And a lot of the apps on my phone literally don't work when we're at sea. And those that do, like, they've obviously been built with that in mind, but it's not the default. Like, a lot of people are just building apps assuming there's a cloud, assuming there's like fiber grade bandwidth, and like, it's not true. And like, if it's not true for me, a first world user on a boat, it's probably almost certainly not true for second or third world folks who are, or developing countries who don't have the connectivity or the device power to be able to stay connected. So anyway, it got me thinking, like, why have we so over-rotated onto just like the cloud being a utility when like it isn't actually for a lot of people? Then I just on Twitter started stumbling upon people starting to talk about this local first movement, which was building your apps with local storage in mind first and cloud second, rather than the other way around. And I'm like, actually that fits quite well. So maybe I'll kind of work in that angle to how I'm thinking about Tinybase, and that really kind of propelled the roadmap on from there. We can talk a lot about local first, but I would definitely recommend people go check it out. Actually stood up a little website recently called Local First Web Development, so I think that's localfirstweb.dev, which has got a bunch of resources and tools around this thing. So I don't want to take credit for the local first movement, but like there's a lot happening there, and it's pretty fun. And I'm all in on it as an option for the way to think about building apps.
Yeah, I love this. Is this related? So this is related to the local first Discord?
Yeah, right. So this is another funny little story. I'm just like, there doesn't seem to be a good list of all these things. And so, like it's 1995, I'm going to build a static web page with a list of links on it, and I put it up, and ta-da! The next thing you know, there's like a community forms around it, and there's a guy called Jonathan who went and started the Discord, and like the next thing you know, they're doing monthly meetups, and it's super awesome. So that's been a lot of fun, and it's still pretty small. It's a little embryonic. It's a little heretical, perhaps, the idea that you're not going to lash yourself straight onto some cloud provider right from the start of your development process, but it's pretty alluring when you think of some of the benefits, and like nothing's exclusive. You can start building local first and then later choose to make something that connects to the cloud, but it's just a slightly different perspective of thinking about things.
It's interesting how the conversation has changed a little bit. So, I mean, we've had offline first is a thing that we've talked about for a while, so even back in the, even earlier Facebook days, and you have like a web app and you like want people to have like some access to some things if they've already loaded it. And I saw that just like, terminology used for a while. And now we're getting to local first, which is that, don't necessarily need an internet connection, but it seems to be more about, data sovereignty has become like a big component of how local first software is talked about, which I think is a fascinating angle.
Yeah, no, for me it was purely practical. It's like I want to build apps that I know will work when I'm 40 miles offshore. There is an awesome manifesto, however, written by kind of a design lab called Ink and Switch, and I would, anyone that wants to kind of get to the root of the local first movement needs to go and read that. And they have 7 kind of local first principles, and they lean pretty heavily on the fact that unless you own the data, it's not yours. It's a bit like the maker thing, if you can't fix it, it's not yours. And I suppose the same thing. If the data doesn't reside on your own device as some kind of pseudo source of truth, then is it really your data? And that's kind of compelling. I'm not quite as religious about it as that. I do see the cloud as being a sort of a pretty important component of how you make this work. But knowing that I have a copy of that data wherever I am in the world is a pretty compelling thing. So there's lots of resources, but definitely that Ink and Switch article is a link you need to put in the show notes.
Big fan of Ink and Switch. They do a lot of really great work.